I have been following Dr. Louis Ignarro, who wrote the book No More Heart Disease. And Dr. Louis Ignarro found that a person needs to take at least 5 grams of arginine a day, minimum, okay? So in order to do that, you have to supplement with it. But then he also discovered that arginine, because it becomes a gas, nitric oxide, that it burns off very rapidly. In fact, within 20 minutes it would be out of your system. So then he said, take it with citrulline. Citrulline turns it into a time release. It stabilizes the arginine, turns it into a time release, so it'll last longer in your hours, in your body, maybe 4 hours or whatever. And then the other thing is, nitric oxide gas is actually an oxidizing agent, and we know that causes free radical damage. So on the one hand, it has a healing effect, but on the other hand, it's creating free radicals, so it can cause damage. So that's why you should never take arginine by itself. So he recommends antioxidants. You need antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin E, the OPCs, which is your grape seed, grape skin extract, resveratrol, CoQ10. These are all great antioxidants that you need to have with it to prevent that oxidation. Yes. Prevention is cheaper. It is less painful. It is much simpler to do than to wait until something's wrong. And remember, 300,000 people, the first sign is they drop dead. And that includes 100,000 athletes. Of the 300,000, it's 100,000 athletes. And 6 children every week, in America at least, will drop dead of heart disease. Basketball players, swimmers, rugby players, football players. Fine 1 minute, drop dead the next. So it's happening on a regular basis, and simple screening to see if there's some kind of disturbance in the heart as before it's too late, and then taking something in nature that has incredible science. By the way, there's over 100,000 medically published clinical studies attesting to what arginine-derived nitric oxide does in the human body. There's a device known as a digital pulse wave analyzer. It was cleared by the FDA. It's cleared by the Canadian health equivalent to the FDA. What this device does is in 60 seconds, it gets a snapshot of not only your heart, but all of your arteries. In a hospital environment, it would run you somewhere between $2,500 to $5,000 to get all the different tests, like the echocardiogram, electrocardiogram, an MRI, duplex Doppler, all these different tests. You would be there all day to get these tests. It would cost you about $5,000. This test does it all in 60 seconds, which sounds, yeah, right, but it does. I've been doing it now for roughly 4 years, and it's amazing what I see. And what's nice is you start them out on the test, you give them a protocol to follow, whether it's diet, exercise, and natural supplements. They come back 30 days later and they see the results in black and white. But during that 60 seconds, it will measure your heart rate. It will measure your ejection fraction, which is how much blood is, how strong your heart is. It does it in time, not in the amount of blood that's pumping out, because we can't see that. But we can tell you how strong the heart is and see if you're leaning towards congestive heart failure. It'll look for an electrical disturbance if you have an arrhythmia. A lot of people are walking around with an arrhythmia, and that's these young kids that are walking around with arrhythmia. They don't know they have it. Then they're out there playing basketball and they get it to get worse. They pass out in 7 minutes, they're dead. So it will tell you that. It will measure the aorta, which is your major artery, to see how elastic that artery is, as well as measuring the hardness of the large and small arteries. And it will measure your circulation in your large arteries, small arteries, and capillaries. Now, I can't tell you which arteries are showing blockage, but it will tell you exactly what's happening, where if you want to go get further testing, you can. Especially the large arteries, the 6 large arteries that feed the heart. It'll tell you that. It'll grade you from A to G, A being really good, G being a clinical event. And it will biologically age your arteries. You could be a 60-year-old with 20-year-old arteries, or you can be a 20-year-old with 60-year-old arteries. But it'll tell you exactly what's happening inside you, all in 60 seconds. the medical practice is actually failing pretty miserably. Recently in America, one of the top heart surgeons, he's listed in the who's who, he's the #1 chief of staff at second largest heart hospital in America. He walked away from his practice because he said, you know what, the way we treat people when they come to us is put them on a low-fat diet and put them on a statin, a cholesterol medication. And he said, we're failing miserably. That 25% of Americans are taking statins now. They want to put children on statins. If the father has heart disease, let's start the child out on statins. And I can tell you the side effects to taking those cholesterol medicines are not worth the, there's really not any studies that show that these will prevent a heart attack. All the studies that are provided are by pharmaceutical companies. Government studies show no difference between taking Lipitor or placebo, but they keep pushing it because there's no other solution. The actual problem is something called homocysteine, which B vitamins will help to conquer, but they don't have a drug for that, so they keep pushing these cholesterol drugs and a low-fat diet. And he says more people will die this year than last year. So are we winning? No. So now he uses nutritional therapy. So here's a doctor who was in the top echelon of heart surgeons, and he walked away from it to do nutritional therapy. So yeah, medication, like I said before, is good for covering up the symptoms. People feel better, but it's not treating the underlying problem. And medications are toxic chemicals. They're synthetic, inorganic. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. And oftentimes it will, in the long run, you'll end up with kidney failure or liver failure. My dad, a couple years ago, passed away, and it started with one thing and another, and when he was on his deathbed, there was a team of 10 doctors prescribing medications. Nobody knew what the other guy, nobody talked, and he ended up with kidney failure. And he didn't wish to go on, what do they call that? Dialysis. He didn't wish to go on dialysis, so it's pretty much the end. But it was all those medications, and it started, I remember when I used to go visit him, and it just started with blood pressure, and then that led to an irregular heartbeat, so they put him on a drug for that. Then that led to something else, they put him on a drug for that, then it led to something else. He says, 5 years ago I was feeling good, and now he was losing his memory, and he couldn't do certain things anymore. And I just watched that slow progression, and unfortunately I reached out, but oftentimes, a prophet is not accepted in his own hometown or whatever, and
Do you believe the body has the ability to heal itself?
The body does have the ability to heal itself if you give it the raw materials it needs. And what's interesting is if you look outside, there are no trees that contain Lipitor. There's no bushes that contain Coumadin. There's no flower petals that contain Zocor. I mean, it's ridiculous. These are chemicals that are produced in a laboratory that, in a laboratory they'll say, okay, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, all these are great vitamins, but let's synthesize them, and we can make them cheaper and this and that, like Centrum and Theragram M and all these vitamins that do absolutely nothing because your body doesn't recognize it. Your body only recognizes one thing, and that's food, natural things. And that's what your body needs to rebuild, to restore, to rejuvenate itself. And so Nature's Emporium is doing a wonderful service for people, providing natural things that people can go home and begin a program and actually rebuild, restore, and rejuvenate their body.